Well, we're here at the SME Expo, and we're down on the exhibit floor with Steve Fortier of the United States Geological Survey. And Steve's title is Director of National Mineral Information Agency. He's been in that job for about 2 years now, I think.
That's right.
And Steve's going to give us relate to us where they're going at this point in time. They're changing up some of the way that they present mineral commodities. And Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's go forward.
It's a pleasure to be here at SME and have this opportunity to talk about what we do. I try to do that every chance I get. It's a very exciting time at the National Minerals Information Center at USGS. We've been hiring a lot of people to fill positions that are being vacated by people retiring. It's a wave washing over many government agencies.
Yeah.
Ours is no exception. So we've been very successful in being able to backfill those positions. We've also been doing a lot of work on doing more than simply collecting information, analyzing it, and presenting it, publishing it. We've started to do a lot more project work with some key new hires and getting into some areas that we think are fundamentally important about the reasons why the information we collect is so important.
Right.
One of those is net import reliance, and I have a figure here that shows the evolution of net import reliance for mineral commodities that we source from outside the United States, going back 60 years to the post-World War II era, and how that trend in the long term has developed. The numbers and types of commodities for which we are import dependent, and the countries from which those come. And what you see is a very pronounced shift to increasingly larger numbers of commodities at higher percentage of import dependence, and from a much more globally diverse and broad source of countries, which carries with it some risks from governance and things like this.
Right, and a national security issue in the case of some of the strategic minerals.
Exactly. And so we wanted to get that information out there for people to understand the context of that, because there's a lot of discussion of that issue in federal government.
Yeah.
And it's an important issue, and we wanted to make sure people understand what we understand about that issue.
And what are you going to do that's different that you've done in the past to make people sure that you get your word across and you get the message out?
Well, we are, in addition to the normal channels that we've been using for many years, publishing our net import reliance chart every year.
Right, we're all familiar with that.
We have been doing briefings, and we will do additional briefings for key congressional committees. And through the Mineral Science and Information Coalition that SME and National Mining Association and American Geosciences Institute belong to, we are getting additional opportunities to get in front of appropriators and key committees in natural resources and energy and natural resources in the Senate to explain to them our perspective on these issues. And there is a renewed interest in the subject of critical minerals. Senator Murkowski has legislation and language that's been inserted into the energy modernization policy bill that is currently on the Senate floor. From our perspective, what has just happened with Molycorp at Mountain Pass and rare earths has refocused people's attention on this whole issue of critical minerals and where we're getting these materials from, and that there's a chance that this legislation could pass in this session, which we believe is a good thing. We support the language that Senator Murkowski put in the original American Mineral Security Act. The USGS director testified to that extent, and we applaud the effort to insert that into the current legislation.
And does that provide for any additional exploration funds for looking for?
There is a number in the language in the current Senate bill. It is not an appropriation. It is an authorization.
It's an authorization,
which is a very different thing.
It is indeed.
So it still has to go through appropriations. But no, I think there's a recognition that if you want to do a lot more in terms of mineral resource assessments for critical minerals domestically, that comes with a cost, and that that's something that you need to pay for if you expect to have results.
Exactly.
So we're trying to emphasize that issue. We're also focusing on key elements that have been identified in other kinds of policy debates. One example is in the conflict mineral discussion around the Dodd-Frank requirements for companies sourcing for materials from Democratic Republic of Congo. We just did a publication in December on primary of mining of tantalum going back to the year 2000. There's been a clear shift from the majority of those materials coming from Australia and Brazil
Yeah.
to now the DRC and Rwanda and other countries in Central Africa. So we had a big shift from countries that have industrial mining techniques and so low governance risk and transparency in
Right.
the supply chains to countries where the opposite is true.
Yeah.
It's artisanal mining, it's higher governance risk,
Right.
more
Right.
less transparency in trade
Causes
flows.
great concern.
So that is something that the U.S. Congress has expressed concerns about.
Yes.
That the Defense Logistics Agency has been asked questions about. We are one of the sources that they rely on for
Right.
mineral information for their scenario modeling, and so we have done this study to really highlight the issue for tantalum as an example
Right.
of
Okay.
that kind of issue. So that's another area that we've just published on that we're very excited about. There's some real value that I think that's added there. And then one other thing that I would mention that I'm really excited about is we have completely re-engineered our Volume 2 publication.
Okay.
Volume 2 is the chapter of the Mineral Yearbook that covers the domestic production
Okay.
at a state
Sure.
level.
Right.
And after consulting with all of our state partners
Right.
and sending
Right.
out
I
a
recall that.
prototype
Yeah.
and getting comment back, we are finalizing the format for that. This will be a fundamentally different
Excellent.
and
Sure.
we believe a much higher value added publication that will come out of this. It will look more like mineral commodity summaries for the states.
Right.
So 2-page summaries for individual states.
Nice.
A lot more national summaries
Very
by
good.
state, and a lot more graphics and,
Yeah, the
and
graphics should help.
photography. So,
Right. Very good.
it's I think can be a prototype for how we approach modernizing our entire portfolio. The Volume 2 was the part of our portfolio that needed it the most.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we started there, but we're very excited about that. The 2014 reporting cycle for Volume
Right.
2 will be in the new format. So stay tuned for that.
What's the time frame for getting that out the door?
We hope to have the draft for 14 by the end of this calendar year.
Okay, very good.
By
Well,
end
we'll
of
be looking
2016.
forward to it
Yeah.
and putting it out there. Steve, thanks so much for showing up.
You're welcome, Mike.
Bye.
Thanks.
Underwriters of the Arizona Mining Review include Mining Foundation of the Southwest, a nonprofit organization based in Tucson, Arizona, working to educate the public about mineral resources and the mineral extraction and processing industries.